I saw it. Every second of it. I saw the exact moment they decided you were no longer worth their time, and I want you to know, before we go any further. I never once looked away. I am the one who has stood in the doorway of every room you ever cried in alone. I was there in the small apartment with the flickering light, when you counted coins on the table and told yourself it would be fine. I was there when you were a child, watching from the top of the stairs, learning too early how quiet a house could get. I have never once looked away from you, not when you were shining, and not when you were on your knees. So when I tell you I saw everything, I do not mean it as a warning. I mean it as a promise. I saw the room go cold when you walked in during your hardest season. I saw the friends who found new places to be. I saw the family members who spoke of you like a burden passed quietly between hands, the ones who sighed instead of asking how you really were. I saw the silence after you asked for help, and I saw you learn, slowly and painfully, to stop asking. I want you to know that none of it escaped me. Every dismissive glance, every door that didn't open, every laugh that wasn't quite kind. I was there for all of it, and I kept count. Not out of vengeance, but out of love that refuses to forget the ones who forgot you. There is a particular kind of ache that comes from being low and still being made to feel smaller. You know this ache. You have carried it in your chest on mornings when getting up felt like the hardest work in the world. You have bargained with yourself in the dark, if I just try harder, if I just stop needing things from people, if I just get smaller and quieter and easier to carry. Maybe they will come back, maybe they will finally see me the way I wanted to be seen. You rehearsed apologies for problems that were never yours to apologize for. You shrank yourself into shapes that would not inconvenience anyone, hoping shrinking would be rewarded with love. And still, somewhere underneath all of that bargaining, a small and stubborn part of you kept whispering that you deserved better than what you were being given. You silenced that voice more times than you can count, because believing it felt like a risk you could not afford. Better to expect nothing, you told yourself, than to hope and be disappointed again. So you built a life around low expectations, a life that asked for very little, because asking for very little meant you could never be told no. Here is what I have been building while you were busy surviving. It is not loud, and it will not arrive with fireworks or fanfare, because that is not how real lifting works. What is coming for you moves the way morning moves, not with a single blinding flash, but with light that spreads slowly until, without quite noticing when it happened, you realize the whole room is bright. You will feel it first in small things. A conversation that goes differently than you expected. A door that opens without you having to force it. A version of ease that feels almost unfamiliar, because you had grown so used to fighting for everything. People who once looked past you will look again, and this time they will see something they cannot quite name, not arrogance, not performance, but a kind of settledness, as if you have finally stopped begging the world for permission to take up space. Your voice will carry differently in rooms. Not louder, just clearer, the way a bell rings truer once it is no longer cracked. Opportunities that once slipped past you, closing quietly like doors you never got to knock on, will begin to open on their own timing, and you will walk through them without the old flinch, without waiting to be told you are allowed. Your body will remember what it feels like to rest without guilt. Your mind will grow quieter, the constant low hum of bracing for the next disappointment finally settling into something closer to peace. You will notice you are no longer rehearsing your worth before you walk into a room. You will simply walk in. And the very people who once treated your struggle as something to step around, something inconvenient and easier to ignore, will watch this unfolding and feel, for the first time, the discomfort of realizing they misjudged what they had in front of them. I do not tell you this so you can savor their discomfort. I tell you this because you deserve to know that what was seen was not forgotten, and what was withheld from you is being returned, quietly and completely, in its own time. This lifting is not a performance for the people who doubted you. It was never about them. It is about you finally standing in the fullness of what you always were, even in the seasons when no one else could see it. There is a cost to always being the one who understands, always the one who forgives first. Always the one who explains away the silence of others because it is easier than sitting with the truth of being overlooked. You have paid that cost for years, quietly, without complaint, telling yourself that this was simply what strength looked like. But I want to gently remind you, strength was never supposed to mean disappearing so that others could remain comfortable. Somewhere along the way you confused endurance with invisibility, and you began to believe that being easy to overlook was the same thing as being at peace. It was not peace. It was survival dressed up to look like grace. And survival, however long you have practiced it, was never meant to be the ceiling of your life. It was meant to be the floor you stood on while something larger was being prepared above you. Something you could not yet see because you were too busy holding yourself together to look up. Let me remind you of the moments you have quietly carried, the ones that taught you to expect less. There was the time you needed someone to simply sit with you, and instead you were handed advice you never asked for, as though your pain was a problem to be solved rather than a weight to be witnessed. There was the season you kept showing up for people who had long stopped showing up for you, telling yourself that loyalty meant staying no matter what, even when staying cost you pieces of yourself you have not yet fully gotten back. There was the birthday, the illness, the hard year, when you waited for someone to notice, and the waiting stretched longer than it should have, and you learned to stop counting on being noticed at all. None of that was your failure. It was theirs, in their inattention, and it was, in its own strange way, part of the shaping. You did not need those moments to prove your worth, but you needed them to teach you what you will no longer accept. Every closed door you knocked on and were left standing outside of, was quietly teaching your hands the shape of a door that will actually open for you. I need you to understand something deeper here, beloved, because this was never only about how others treated you. It was about how you had begun to treat yourself in response. When people withhold their attention, it is easy to start believing you were never worth the attention in the first place. When people leave quietly, it is easy to start rehearsing all the reasons you deserve to be left. This lifting I speak of is not only external. It is the slow return of your own belief in yourself, the quiet unlearning of every small lie you absorbed simply because no one corrected it in time. You are being lifted into your own permission. Permission to expect to be treated well, without guilt. Permission to take up space in a room without shrinking first to make sure no one minds. Permission to say, plainly, "This hurt me," without immediately softening it into something more palatable for someone else's comfort. Permission to walk away from rooms that made you feel small, even if walking away means walking alone for a while. None of this is punishment for anyone who hurt you. It is simply the truth finally being allowed to stand up straight after years of being asked to bow. I want to be honest with you about something else, because love does not need to manipulate to be real. Nothing about this unfolding depends on urgency or fear. You do not need to rush to prove you are ready. You do not need to perform belief to earn what is already yours. If you read these words and feel doubt rise up first, that is not failure. That is simply the residue of every time hope was punished before. I am not here to shame that doubt out of you. I am here to sit beside it patiently until it softens on its own. There is no clock ticking on this. There is no version of you that misses this moment by hesitating, because what is being restored to you is not a limited offer, it is a returning, and returning things do not vanish because you took a breath before receiving them. You are allowed to feel skeptical and still be held. You are allowed to feel numb from disappointment and still be walking towards something good, even if you cannot feel the walking yet. What I can promise you is this. The people who watched you struggle and offered nothing but distance will, in time, see the shift in you, and they will not need to be told what happened. It will simply be visible in how you carry yourself, in how you no longer explain your boundaries, in how your peace no longer requires their approval to exist. Some of them will attempt to draw closer once they see it, curious about the change, perhaps even a little unsettled by it. You are not obligated to let them back in simply because they finally noticed you. You get to choose, freely and without guilt, who walks with you into what is coming. Others, the ones who quietly stayed, the ones who sat with you in the hard seasons without needing you to perform wellness for their comfort, will find their loyalty meeting its own reward too, because nothing offered to you in love is ever wasted, and nothing given to you in genuine care goes unnoticed by me. If you have such people in your life, however few, hold them close. They were part of this lifting long before you could see it happening. I have watched every version of you it took to survive until this moment. The version who smiled through things that should have broken her. The version who kept working through days that offered no visible reward. The version who kept believing quietly, even when believing loudly had stopped feeling safe. I have not forgotten a single one of them, and I am not building this next season without them. Everything you endured is being folded into what comes next. Not discarded, not wasted, but woven in as the foundation strong enough to hold what is arriving. So here is what I ask of you, gently, without demand. Let yourself imagine, even for a moment, that you are allowed to be treated well. Let yourself picture a room where you do not have to earn your place at the table. Let yourself feel, even briefly, what it might be like to walk somewhere and simply be welcomed, without having first proven you deserve it. You do not need to force this feeling into permanence today. You only need to let it visit you, so that when it arrives for good, you will recognize it as familiar rather than foreign. You are not being lifted to make anyone jealous. You are not being restored so you can prove a point to those who doubted you. You are being lifted because you were never meant to stay where they left you, and because I do not measure your worth by how well others recognized it. I measured it long before they had the chance to, and I have never once wavered. If you are not ready to believe any of this today, that is all right. I am not going anywhere. I was with you in the room where no one else stayed, and I will be with you in whatever room comes next, whether you walk into it slowly or all at once. There is no version of your healing that happens without me beside you, and there is no timeline you could choose that would make me leave first. Take your time. Let the lifting happen at the pace your heart can actually hold. And when you begin to notice it, the small shift in how people speak to you, the quiet ease returning to your shoulders, the sense that you are, at last, being met rather than merely tolerated, remember where it came from. Remember that it was never about becoming someone new. It was about finally being allowed to be who you always were, before the world taught you to make yourself smaller for its comfort. Think, for a moment, about the ones who sprint ahead too quickly, who mistake attention for love and applause for worth. They rise fast and often just as quickly fade, because what they built rests on other people's opinions rather than their own steady ground. You were never meant to rise that way. Your foundation was laid slowly, in rooms no one else was watching, through nights that taught you patience you did not ask for but will not regret carrying. What is coming for you will not be a flash that burns bright and disappears. It will be steady, the kind of light that keeps a house warm through every season, not the kind that only shows up for the party. I know there is a temptation, once you begin to feel this shift, to rush back toward the very people who once overlooked you, eager to show them how far you have come. I understand that pull completely. It is human, and it is not something to be ashamed of. But I ask you to notice it gently before you act on it. You do not owe anyone a demonstration of your becoming. Your growth does not need an audience to be real, and it certainly does not need the approval of people who once found it easy to walk past you. Let your life be the proof, quietly lived, rather than a performance staged for people who have not yet earned a seat in your story. I am with you, beloved, in the rising as much as I was in the falling. I saw it all. I am still watching. And what I am building for you now will not be undone by anyone who once looked away.